welcome back Behind the Label. This is our video podcast series where we look at the history behind bourbon labels.
Yep.
I'm Lowell, I'm with Del Gray Photography.
And I'm Jerry with Stone Fences Tours. And this is our lineup.
This is our lineup. And why do we have this lineup? What did we do yesterday that caused us to have this lineup?
Well, this one robbed somebody yesterday, so somebody's going to pick it out. This all ties in with what we're doing right now on our Behind the Label video cast. Is we're talking about Colonel Taylor.
Right.
And these are actually all products made of Buffalo Trace.
Yeah. And we visited there yesterday. That's why we kind of are doing this, because we got some new information, or at least some of the information was new to me. I'm sure it was kind of old to you, but we went out and took their Colonel Taylor tour, or
their trace tour.
We're
actually doing the Colonel Taylor next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're limited right now on the amount of space they have, like 8 people on a tour.
I think we only had 8 on our tour.
That was it, yeah. Usually it's 25 or 30 on a tour.
Yeah.
So.
It was really neat. Buffalo Trace, they get free tours, great place to go if you're ever visiting in this area.
And different tours. They have 6 or 7 different tours.
A bunch of different ones.
And our tour guide yesterday, he was so, I know my wife Hope said that she'd overheard him that he had a chemistry degree. So
you could tell he was definitely adapted.
So we talked a lot about aging and the effects of the warehouse on aging.
The physical effects and the environmental effects on how it affects the whiskey, how it promotes the whiskey aging. And the reason we're tying all this in is because Colonel Taylor is also tied in. If you've been watching the series, he's tied in deeply. As a matter of fact, one of the starting points of the current Buffalo Trace distillery.
OFC.
OFC, the old fire copper.
Yeah, and one of the things that you always hear somebody ask when they're on a tour is it's almost every time, do you rotate your barrels? 99% of them don't. Too much manual labor.
Yeah.
So they're going to, like, ones that don't have all these different products, so like Maker's Mark. So we did the Same Rules video cast first, the Same Rules family. They only have like a Maker's Mark and a Maker's Mark 46 and a Maker's Mark cast strength. So it's all Maker's Mark, but a little extra done to it. They don't rotate their barrels. So what they do is they take their warehouse and they do an X when they pick. So they pick here, 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 here. So they take some from the top, the middle, and the bottom.
And then they sort of blend all that.
Blend all that together to make their product. Yes. Buffalo Trace doesn't do that.
And if you're wondering about this X, of why they would choose from there, like we learned yesterday, which we kind of talked about before, placement of the barrel once it's full of new whiskey. Placement of that barrel is not only important, it's vital as to what the final product is going to be. And so what we're looking at here, what proof are we looking at starting out with here?
We'll start out with the 80, and not necessarily just placement too, is the type of where the warehouse is located.
Right. Yeah.
Because Buffalo Trace has them now up on a farm, way up on a hill.
Yeah. So we'll talk about a little bit about why that's what happened. We're going to do the
benchmark.
We have
is
a 80.
benchmark. Yeah, it's 3 years old. So it was started in the 1960s by Seagrams. And if you notice, it says McAfee's. That's one of the original family settlers in this area. Is the McAfee's.
So I'm guessing they're from like.
They're just outside of Frankfurt.
But I mean, with the Mac, I'm thinking they're like either South African, Brazilian, something like that. they're probably
Irish,
Scottish Irish.
Yeah. So this is, it's a 3-year. So actually, though, this one here is, it's, let's see, the date on it is 1992 when actually they've had it. They bought it. Sazerac bought it. So it's about a 3-year. So when we talk about placement.
Yeah, tell us about like why is this cheap? Why is this whiskey cheaper and not as desirable as say this whiskey?
Okay. So warehouse. So let's say.
I'm going to make a side note. Tell me about is this the different recipe or a same recipe as this? Because
these are all the same.
Right.
We probably should mention that first.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
This is their mash bill number 1. So these are all the same mash bill.
Yeah. So like if you were making a loaf of bread, let's say, you used exactly the same ingredients, but you cut that loaf up into 5 pieces, and you did something with each one of those different 5 pieces, and it came out one piece of bread was not so great, and the last piece of bread was amazing.
Yeah. So these is their low rye. So most people think it's about 10%. So most people guess, because it's 70-80% corn in the recipe. So guess it would be like 75% corn, 10% rye, 15% barley. because it's the low rye. Now products like Ancient Age and Blanton's are higher rye, and they're probably 12 to 15. Not a huge
Yeah,
difference.
and those are on a different recipe, but
Yeah.
the thing that kind of really struck me is when they really started looking at it is all these are exactly the same recipe,
Mhm.
just with different results based on how the whiskey's handled after it's put in the barrel,
Mhm.
basically.
Yes, the only thing that's going to change that is where and how long you put it in there.
Yeah, so the thing I've kind of come to learn literally just recently is top shelf whiskey is at the bottom of the warehouse.
That's right. That's right. So if you're looking at, so if you want to hold, let's hold Eagle Rare.
All right.
Hold it down here. So you're talking about a warehouse. So you got Eagle Rare
Let's put it in, I guess.
right there,
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace,
About like that.
benchmark.
Yeah. So, and we're talking about the physical location in the warehouse. So if
Warehouse.
you go in the warehouse, first floor,
Mhm.
do they have anything below? Yeah, actually that one at Buffalo Trace is sunk a little bit.
They're actually redoing that one.
Okay,
So they
all
work
right,
out
so it's
yeah.
moved out so well.
Yeah.
But this would basically be ground floor as you come in.
Mhm.
This is like the next couple of stories up. This is up in the attic part
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the warehouse.
So the thing is when you put it up top, you know, the heat, a lot hotter up top than it is on the bottom. So it's making that movement in and out of the barrel more often. So it's actually aging it quicker. As we talked about before, it doesn't really necessarily get to mellow
Yeah.
and take its time aging. And so this is what they call their economy bourbons. So these will be at the top floor of the warehouse. So this is a 3-year, 80 proof, so it's a low
80
proof.
proof, 3 years old,
Mhm.
top of the warehouse, but same exact mash bill. Now, would this be? I mean, I know, like for instance, Pappy Van Winkle. Everybody in the world's heard of that one, even if you never drank bourbon. Is this the same mash bill as the Pappy?
No, Pappy is wheated bourbon.
Okay,
These are all rye,
That's their number.
rye bourbon.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is their mash bill number 1 rye. They have a mash bill number 2 that's a rye bourbon, and then they have a wheated bourbon mash bill, and that's your Weller and your Pappy, same mash bill. And they also have rye that they make a Sazerac rye that has this, where it's at least 51% rye, so it's not a bourbon. So that's but these are all that same recipe.
Let's give this a try.
And this you can find for $10.
Actually smells pretty good for $10.
It's definitely an economy buy, as they say. They won't say cheap there.
It's got that nice wood,
Yeah.
oaky. Let's give
That's
it
the
a
thing,
taste.
because it interacts with that wood so
Yeah,
quick.
it's definitely getting the oak is kind of real prominent. It's not bad. I mean, it's definitely got a little bit of that. The after is not as good as the better whiskey. That's where I'm getting the most difference.
Not as smooth.
Not as smooth.
Yeah.
It's definitely the more. It's intense, but not in a good flavorful way. It's more intense in like the harshness kind of.
Yeah. So this definitely would be to me like a mixer, more than likely. So that's the stuff you will buy from the top of the warehouse. Like I said, it's when you're a kid in college or something, $10.
So Buffalo Trace, bottom of the warehouse, or top of the warehouse rather.
Yeah.
Top of the warehouse. It gets hot. The alcohol.
interacts in and out of that wood. So
Yeah,
when it
and
gets
it
hot,
basically
you know
pressurizes.
the science of it
Yeah,
there.
I mean basically any fluid, including water, when you heat it up, increased pressure. So if it's inside the barrel, the alcohol penetrates deeper into the wood, but then also contracts back out because the temperature changes up there. So you're getting a lot more in and outs, but less, like as you said, mellowing, because there's a lot of chemical process, a lot of complex carbohydrates have to break down in the wood. There's a lot of enzymes that have to activate in the wood. So there's a lot of chemistry behind the magic of bourbon. And I don't know that the original bourbon makers knew that. They knew what worked, but they probably didn't know what the actual chemistry behind it. But bottom line is they figured out that the top barrels don't taste as good in a couple of years as the bottom barrels.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
so what do we have?
Next we got their next one, which is Old Charter, Old Number 8. See if I can get you a small pour.
Yep.
Get you
There
a
we
huge
go.
one like you did at Glenn's Creek.
Got a little heavy on the pour on Glenn's Creek.
So this one is actually Old Charter Number 8. This has been around a long time. This one actually
I was getting ready to ask that. Like, which one is the oldest
brand.
Yeah.
This one.
Okay.
It's been around since 1874.
Oh wow, so for a while.
The Chapizzi brothers. They had a distillery, and they
Now, where were they? Where were the Chapizzi brothers located?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm thinking somewhere close to Louisville. I'm not exactly sure on that. I know eventually it went to the Bernheim distillery, and then Seagram's or Shinley, and then actually it became a Sazerac product in '99. They seem to be buying a lot of stuff.
So
in 99.
Sazerac, yeah. So
At that
Sazerac kind
time.
of at the turn of the millennium,
Yeah, they were buying a lot of
sucked
stuff,
everything
and that's
up.
during the rise of bourbon again.
Yeah,
That's when it started to come back up.
Kind of came back up.
Yeah, so this is also 80 proof. They claimed at one time it was aged for 8 years, but
Now, was there ever any evidence that at one time it was aged for 8 years, or that was just sort of like,
That's
yeah,
what they claim.
let's just put that on the bottle and it'll make it sell?
until somebody sued them. And I guess they settled the lawsuit, and they changed this from 8 years, was what it said here before, to Old Number 8 brand. So like Jack Daniels is
Old number.
7. Yeah. So this is Old Number 8. So it is older than this, though.
The brand is.
Yeah, the brand
Did they
and the
keep-
bourbon is probably going to be older than 3 years.
Okay,
It'll be
actual
older.
bourbon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be
It's
older.
but the recipe, I imagine, is not the same as the original 1874. It couldn't be, because
No.
all these are the same mash
Yeah.
bill.
Yeah, most of these companies, when they buy or buy a brand, most of them are changing the
They
recipes.
change it, okay.
Beam does it a lot. Old Crow was the top of the line.
I was kind of wondering about that. I'm wondering, do they sort of slowly introduce that? They basically take the original that people know and kind of maybe like, and then start slowly adding in more, or are they just cold turkey?
That's a
cold
good
turkey,
thing. I guess we'll see that with Sazerac, because they just purchased early times from Brown Forman.
Yeah, that'll be a good example. So
Yeah,
will
so
it
we'll see
go a
what they
sudden
do
change,
with it, yeah.
Or will they add like 20% of basically Buffalo Trace into early
Yeah,
times?
so we'll have to see what they do with it and see if you can actually buy it then. Because you can buy it now, we shall see then. So, you ready to try
Yep,
this
let's
one?
give it a try.
Which
So
order?
this is older than this.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it would have been kind of that mid to upper.
this is considered a mid-level.
Kind of a mid upper.
Okay.
So if you had this Buffalo Trace, it would have kind of been like this.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of that area.
And now one thing to remember, we talked about when we're talking about the different barrel positions. Don't think these are coming all out of one barrel. Like for instance, they're not taking this barrel that's this high. They're taking barrels in the general area, mix them all together, and making this whiskey. So that's going to be it's a blended barrel type thing as opposed to
hundreds of barrels.
hundreds of barrels.
Yeah, put together. And as we're talking about this too, I mean, not just where it's in the warehouse, but Buffalo Trace has a bunch of different warehouses.
Yep, and not only that, they have different warehouses made of different material, which you kind of went through, which I found really fascinating. I never even thought about that. A lot of the warehouses are the original old clay brick, original construction. As a matter of
Especially
fact,
Colonel Taylor's.
yeah, as a matter of fact, they are actually going out of their way to preserve that one, which I thought was pretty cool. A huge Rickhouse that they're basically hollowing out, leaving the brick walls in place, and then basically kind of making a new modern interior because they want to preserve not only the look, but the performance of those the exterior. And the reason that's important is because things, basically, as you know, like a black shirt will be hotter in the sun than a light colored shirt. That absorbs more heat, which then causes more changes in the barrel. The porosity of the brick can even matter, how much water vapor can come in and out. The number of windows, the height of the windows, the size of the windows,
Yes.
the size of the roof, how far the barrels are from the top of the roof. I mean, there's all these little microscopic variables that you would think, just on the layman, you'd be like, put it in a building and let it sit there for a while. And it's just not that simple.
Well, the Tornado Colonel Taylor. You probably missed that discussion, is where that warehouse, the Colonel Taylor warehouse right there across from the visitor center, tornado hit it and ripped off the roof.
No, I didn't hear that part.
Ripped off the roof, and the wall stayed. It's made pretty much to where the walls will fall down and everything else will stay. And so it sat out in the weather for months before they were able to get it covered back up with the roof. And they call that the Tornado Colonel Taylor.
Oh.
It's got a different taste to
It's
it.
a different taste.
Yeah, it
Now, is
does.
that just because of the new roof, or because something happened to the inside of the walls?
Well, you're talking about all this, everything coming down on it, rain, all this weather is making more of an impact on it because it's open.
Yeah.
It's open to the weather, so all this has an impact on it. So it actually, they're expensive bottles now, let's just say. Yeah, very expensive. So you think this is better than
It is, yeah. on the smell is about the same. It's still getting about the oak, but the finish is not as. And it's something I've been trying to kind of rinse out with water. Some of that may be. I feel like the finish isn't as harsh as the benchmark.
So the difference is they're both 80 proof, same mash bill. This one's just a few years older and maybe a little bit lower.
A little bit lower on the racks.
In the racks, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, it's definitely become evident because like right now I'm not feeling that harsh. This one almost leaves you that kind of, which to me it being, again, sort of the newbie on the whole bourbon thing, I always associated that with high proof. So if something left like it's kind of got a bite or bright to your throat, I thought, oh, that must be really high proof.
No, it can be 80 proof.
And, right, and it can be 80 proof because, as a matter of fact, some of the really nice ones, like the OCD 5 that we did the other day, what was that, 116, I think? Very smooth. It's very nice. You can certainly sip it neat and no problems.
Old Granddad 114 the same way. I mean, it's just very smooth. So, ready for the third one?
Let's try the third one.
I know. I guess everybody knows where this name come from.
Buffalo Trace. We'll give you a real quick recap.
Why is it called Buffalo Trace?
Yep. Frankfurt, where it's made, is actually it's along the banks of the Kentucky River. The river runs right through the middle of Frankfurt if you're from out of state. It's our state capital, but it's also the site of numerous, over the years, distilleries. Has a great history of distillery making or bourbon making, and the reason it's called Buffalo Trace, when Sazerac bought I guess at that time it was the Stag Distillery.
Well, it was called different things from there. It was called H&A. It was called Bland's.
That's right. It was H&A there for a while.
Yep, sure was.
But when Sazerac bought it, they kind of wanted to have a tie-in with the history around there. And
guess what year they bought it?
99.
99. Yep.
1999.
Yep, they did.
But there is the word trace actually means road. It's kind of an old term for road. So this is Buffalo Road, and when you mean Buffalo Road, it was actually like a natural road made by trampling buffalo as they migrated from out of northern Kentucky through like Big Bone Lick area, through a bunch of salt licks, and down. You said it actually kind of makes like a J type.
Almost like a hook.
Yeah, almost like
it comes down, they cross the river there in Kentucky, they kind of do an eastern swing and back up the Blue Licks.
Yeah. So the distillery actually sits right at the crossing on the river. If you go there, you'll see, if you go kind of the back behind that, was it the 5 millionth barrel now, or the little...
6 million.
6 million? Yeah. But anyway, back there, it's right on the river. You'll see...
their buildings sit right by it. Yeah, they've been flooded a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Many times they've been flooded. So
but that's why they call it that, because that's where the buffalo used to cross. There was a natural road there. Plus, I just think it's kind of a really cool label. It's really authentic. It kind of brings back the whole pioneer vision kind of in Kentucky. A lot of people maybe don't even know, again, like with the history, a lot of people associate like buffalo or bison with only the West. When settlers first came here, the whole eastern part of the United States was covered in woodland bison. There was billions of them.
Well, Kentucky was the Native Americans. They didn't live here in Kentucky. They hunted here.
Yeah, they competed over it for hunting. Bison and buffalo both are at Big Bone Lick. That's one of the big things they find, all the fossilized bones in there. So I thought it was a really neat tie-in with them. I really like the bottle, the label, the whole thing. So this is, I think that's kind of why this is kind of became their signature product.
This is their signature product.
Yeah, that's sort of that one third.
Produce more of this than pretty much. Well, I mean, they probably produce more. They're cheap
per volume. Yeah,
they're economic.
Right, economic. Right, economic.
Yeah,
but there's nowhere in the world you can go that if they have bourbon, they're going to have some.
They're going to have
some Buffalo Trace.
Yeah. So this, we're going from 3 to, we don't know exactly how many years. They claim to 8, but it's probably a little less. And this one here is 7 to 9 years. Like I said, this would be in the middle of the warehouse. And whereas this one is $10, this one's about $15. This one's anywhere from 20 to 30, depending on where you buy it at. So
yeah, and this is getting in that range, kind of like our tour guide was talking about, that where you don't really want to be mixing this, or I'll say don't. I won't tell anybody how to drink the bourbon. Typically, people, once you get from this point on, most people drink either neat, like we're drinking it. Again, for all the people that, like me, that are brand new, neat means with just the liquor in the bottle, or on ice. And some people drink it maybe with a little bit of water. Sometimes I'll do that. We'll chase it with a little bit of water. It kind of helps open it up. I think that some people use this because I think he was even saying they use it like in a lot of bourbon balls. They use it in a lot of
It's got a little more. I can feel this on the back of the throat a little more. It's got a little more pop to it.
Yeah.
It does. It seems to have, even though it's the same mash bill, it seems to have a little more spice to it, but it's not like harsh.
Right.
So.
Yeah, the flavor profile in this compared to these other two, it's definitely broader. There's more to it. It's like listening to a song on the radio, and these you're getting a lot of sort of background static, and with this one you're getting a clearer picture and a louder sound. It's a little more.
Yeah.
Now, I've had Buffalo Trace before. It's kind of a good go-to.
It is. It's good economic. It's better than, I wouldn't say economical. Just a good everyday.
That's a good. If you want to have friends over, if you're having a gathering, if you're wanting to have someone a gift to, they just bought their new house, you can always bring a bottle of Buffalo Trace that's going to kind of fit in everything. So.
Yep. So that is that one. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is. I just recently have ever even tried this one. I didn't even know that was tied into Buffalo Trace, honestly, till not long ago.
Yep, this brand came out in '75. Seagram's started the brand name. And
So I always think of Seagram's. When I hear that word, I always think of like those wine cooler things, stuff that people used to drink when we were in high school.
Yeah, Seagram or Seagram 7.
Yeah, Seagram 7.
Yeah.
Right. That's Canadian, right? That's Canadian whiskey?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So.
Yeah. So I'm probably like a lot of you, I'm definitely the newbie on this, so I had no idea that Eagle Rare was even a Buffalo Trace product. There's so many, even for me, I'm still trying to learn it.
Well, there's so many.
You go into like a store, and you're like, gosh, there's like 500 brands of bourbon. And that's not even considered all the little micro craft distilleries, all the little, tiny little bourbon.
They have a wide, selection of bourbons. Probably them and Heaven Hill.
Yeah, Buffalo Trace has a huge number of labels.
They do. And they're only made from 4 different mash bills, all these different labels. So
yeah, and that's the thing I thought was really cool, especially yesterday about the tour, is realizing that it's all the same recipe, and it all comes down to how it's handled after that, how it's aged, where it's placed, how it's mixed. Yeah. And I just can't imagine that, from a layperson standpoint, I can't think it would, you throw it in a barrel and you let it sit there, and the longer you let it sit, the better it gets, kind of thing. And that's not really true. As a matter of fact, he was talking about if they let it sit too long, essentially most of it evaporates.
It does. Usually, about 4% of a year, somewhere around there.
Yep.
So, after 20 years, that's a lot. There's not much left.
Yeah, and that's also why, again, in my mind, when I was just kind of starting to learn this, I thought it was all completely a marketing ploy of, they're charging $70 for this bottle, and it's not really any better than this bottle. It's just a marketing thing with a different label, and it's not really good. It's one thing, they are losing probably in this barrel. How is this, 7?
7 to 9.
Yeah, so that would be 28% loss
minimum
out of this barrel. When you get up to those, 12-year-olds, 20-year-old whiskeys, you're talking about that's 4%. That's an 80% loss out of a barrel for a 20-year whiskey. So you start out with 52 gallons.
53 gallons.
53 gallons. You lose 80% of that. You have to charge more for what's left.
Yep, you do.
But not only is it better, it tastes better, but you're also having to recoup that expense of trying to do it.
So Eagle Rare started in '75, so it's been around a while, by Seagram's, and there's a very famous family name that started, was their master distiller that started distilling it first, that worked for Seagram's.
I probably won't get this one.
Just think of a famous last name.
Beam.
Yes, Charles Beam. Yeah, so it was, he distilled it. He was the first one.
So I've got Kentucky River and Beam. That's kind of my go-to. That's my go-to answers for anything that we can get asked.
They worked at every distillery at one time or another. So this one is 90 proof, just like this. This one's 10 years. Used to be a single barrel, but it's not anymore. So, like I said, this one would be in the middle, and that would be on the bottom.
So this is the bottom of the Rickhouse brand.
Yep. Yeah, ages a lot slower. Thanks. It's, the profile's pretty similar, but to me it's just a lot smoother. It's smoother to me. Great sipping bourbon.
As we went up, we've kept the same flavor. You can definitely tell it's the same recipe, but what you lose are the harsh notes and that real, almost like kind of the bite to it, and it's replaced with kind of a mellow, almost a caramel vanilla kind of after floaty taste.
And this is, only about 30 bucks. When you find it, it's only about $30, so it's not a bad deal.
If you can find it, which is oddly enough, as large as Buffalo Trace is, there's kind of a shortage because everybody likes it.
Yeah, they're allocated, yes.
Yeah, they're allocated supplies. So sometimes even here locally, it's tough, and we're just down the road from it. It's tough to find some of the products.
Well, this last one here, I spent $69 to get. And how many bottles did we see yesterday at Buffalo Trace?
So yesterday we were at Buffalo Trace. Once, of course, you're at the end, you come through the gift shop. And by the way, they've expanded their
It was beautiful.
gift shops.
The gift shop, the tasting room.
I wanted to just kind of hang out in there and just look around.
Event room, I guess the one space, yeah.
Yep.
A lot different.
Beautiful, beautiful location. But as we came down the stairs, on one of their displays, they have a lot of the whiskeys there that you can actually buy on site. And I saw Jerry's jaw kind of dropped. Yeah, we split that.
Yeah.
So Jerry's jaw kind of dropped.
Yes.
Because there was probably, I don't know, 200-300 bottles of,
there was.
of the Colonel Taylor just on display. And he goes, oh my gosh, I looked all over the place for that stuff, and I had to pay almost $70 for it.
$43.
Yeah, $43 at the gift shop.
And the Taylor name's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we eventually, our last segment, not counting the interview, we talk about Old Taylor.
Right.
And that name, Old Taylor Bourbons, pretty much started from then. So, and, it actually, the distillery shut down there. Beam shut it down.
Yeah, beams are kind of tied into all
They shut it
this.
down, used some warehouses, took the brand name, kept the brand name for a long time until Buffalo Trace bought it. And now, before, we tried the one Old Taylor, which was like an 80 proof, big bottle, kind of a cheap,
economy, definitely
economy.
Plastic bottle kind of thing.
Economy size.
Yeah.
So, but they come out with these, and much better. So this was 2009. So everything was a 9. It's like this was 89 when they bought it, 99 when they started, 99 when they bought this, 2009. So this is fairly new to their lineup.
If you've been watching, hopefully you've been following along. Like I said, this is going to be sort of a standalone podcast, but it goes along with what we've been doing on our behind the label series of the Colonel Taylor story. So all this will basically tie in. But we just have kind of done the tour at Buffalo Trace. We're going to kind of share some of the information that we got there. And again, we always try to tie it back in with the history. And so it comes all the way back around and ties in with the history of Colonel Taylor.
I love this stuff.
Let's try it.
Now this is only about a 7-year-old, but it's a bottle and bond. They say it is aged in the Colonel Taylor warehouses, the older warehouses.
Yeah, tell me about that, because I didn't even know that was a different.
That's the rumor. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the rumor. That it's actually aged in those particular warehouses, the oldest warehouses.
And again, why that makes a difference is because of the material that the brick is made out of, the height of the warehouse, the color of the warehouse, the windows, all that stuff makes a difference, especially when you're talking about something that's 7, 8, 10, 12, or older years. All those little subtle differences, even if it makes a 0.5% difference each year, by the time you stack that up over 15 years, that's a big difference in the product.
It is. So.
That's really good.
Definitely got more heat to it, more pepper to me. But
yeah, it's got a little more of the pepper. I agree. It's almost a pepper kind of.
But it was only $43 yesterday.
At the gift shop.
At the gift shop. So you're talking about 10, 15, probably about 25 average, 30, low 40.
Yeah.
And they're all reasonable. And this, there's one other one in this line. The Stag products are also made from the same mash bill. A little bit more expensive, a little bit harder to find.
Yeah, so those would be kind of more on as far as this
Stag,
end, as far as the expense level. But those would also be top tier, bottom of the Rickhouse.
Yes, yeah. I think the suggested retail price is like $69, but you're not going to find them for that. So that's
now you were telling me they also make several variants of this.
Oh, they do. They make a single barrel this. They make a 4-grain. They make an amaranth, which I'm not real familiar with amaranth. They make a rye.
Now what is it? I've never even heard of that term, amaranth.
It's some type of grain. So it's a new one to me. Like I said, I've seen stuff with like oats and quinoa and rice, but it's the first time I've ever seen amaranth. So they make quite a few different products of this.
Of just this label.
Yes. Yeah. Of the Colonel Taylor.
Yeah, Buffalo Trace makes a lot of different labels, and they also make several sub-labels. For instance, like this, where they make several of the different variants of this. So again, back with the Colonel Taylor tie-in, we're hoping, like you were saying, that we can get out to what's now Castle and Key Distillery,
Taylor,
which originally was the Old Taylor Distillery. And I think just from what I've read, from what you've sent me and the pictures I've seen, it seems to be certainly the most opulent distillery that he was ever involved in.
It's gorgeous. John Karloftis did the gardens.
Oh,
the castle, the spring, shaped as a key. It's beautiful. It's worth it. Hoping I've been there a few times. I know you've been there and taken some pictures.
Yeah, I've actually been there. Actually, probably. Well, I know I have. I've been there more before it actually ever opened, when it was sort of in the dilapidated state, and I went there just to basically take photos. And I'll throw some of those up there of when it's still somewhat in the dilapidated state, and they're sort of doing that intentionally to keep some of the vintage look to it. But it's just absolutely gorgeous now. But to tie back in with the history, if you've been watching our series on the Behind the Label with Colonel Taylor, he went through at least two other distillery purchases before he got to the third purchase, which became Old Taylor. So this was actually his third distillery, and he kind of made that into a gem. I mean, it was a legit tourist attraction.
It was. It had, the train tracks extended from Frankfurt out there, so that's what it was meant. And so I think we're getting ready to do our fourth episode.
I think so.
Fourth episode, we have that one and the fifth one. On the fifth one, we'll talk about Old Taylor quite a bit.
Yep.
And then the sixth one is our interview with David Meyer. Very interesting.
Very interesting guy. Yeah,
he is.
David Meyer. Again, if you're watching this as a standalone video, he is the current owner of Glens Creek,
where we filmed our series.
We filmed it on location at his distillery. He bought what was the original Old Crow Distillery, which had previously been owned by Jim Beam. Previous to that, I guess it was owned by Old Crow.
It was W.A. Gaines and Company.
Who again ties back into Colonel Taylor.
But we hope you follow, and like I said, we're still going out and seeing these places. We'll go back down and see the Old Samuels Distillery.
Yeah, we went a couple times.
And we'll go back down again.
Yeah, they're continuing to work down there.
They invite us down all the time. We went down and saw the dance at their Log Still
Distillery.
Yeah, they're bringing the Dant name back, which is a big thing. So hopefully we'll get back down there soon and get you out there with a camera and get some photos. We're involved with the McBrayers. They're bringing back the Cedar Brook and the Judge McBrayers.
And we just went to the William Tarr.
Opening, yes. Yep. So it's another historic label.
Down here in Lexington. It's going to be in Manchester Street.
Yeah, that was great fun. So we keep trying to. We love being involved with people that are bringing these back, because this is history being brought back. So we love that kind of stuff. We love anything like that. We're an old name, old distillery, and the people's passion when you talk to them, they're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about it, because like we've said, I'm passionate about photography. I really want to expand that. I take a picture. I literally take a picture of rocks or anything. Jerry is passionate about the history, about doing his tour. So we're kind of incorporate that together, bringing in the fact, but hopefully the message is when you enjoy these products, you're not just like, oh, that tastes good, or you think, oh wow, there's a lot of history behind this. I'm holding this. That's encapsulating a lot of history.
Yeah, holding history in your hands.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that's what I hope people are getting from this, and I hope they're seeing our passion for our individual interests come through this, and then kind of the passion for the history of bourbon and the heritage that's kind of associated with that.
So I guess we'll see you Friday.
See you Friday on what will it be? Fourth or fifth series? Fourth series. So watch us this Friday. What is that? July the 10th?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be July 10th.
July the 10th.
And we're working on our next one.
Yep.
And it will be the Pepper family. So we're working on that now, kind of putting that together. Hopefully Woodford Reserve will be open by then. That's the hope. Everything else is open. So I've got an interesting location that we may be able to do an on-location shootout. So that should be fun.
Look forward to it. Salage.
Open mind, try.